I guess you can see the go too. Welcome everybody back to the Illuminator's Quest podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. This is a first of a new chapter. I'm Zach here with two fancy guests, Mo and Daniel, who you can actually see this time. So, welcome everybody.
Hello.
I guess I will start off by saying, with all the new team developments and all the stuff, it kind of just came at the perfect time where. Unfortunately, Jake has decided to not be a permanent guest host of the podcast anymore. He's still going to be around and he'll still be helping out and he'll probably guest spot from time to time. But life happens, and we knew when we started this that it wouldn't, we wouldn't go on forever and be around for eternity. And so, unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to him. And so it kind of does coincide, in a decent spot with the new team starting and all the stuff going on. And so that we will probably be looking to rebrand into the Team Inkfinity Podcast to just, align with everything else we're doing and be, very, I guess, cohesive with all of the stuff that we're trying to do. And so, keep the Illuminator's Quest legacy with Jake, keep all of the stuff that we had done and kind of, make sure that we honor him with all of that. But we'll, continue on this journey as we have. And so want to say, I'm not going to change anything yet, but like the logos and the podcast name and all that stuff, if you're listening / watching, that'll probably change in the upcoming weeks. I didn't want to just spring it on everybody and then, everybody wonder like where the show went, because, it can be a little jarring, I guess. But anyways, that's my opening spiel. So welcome, guys. We have our first official team podcast here. So thanks for coming.
Excited to be here. Zach, did you say watching?
Yeah, this is a video episode now.
Wow. So I don't have to listen to it on my car ride all the time. This is awesome.
Yeah. So I guess that's a perfect segue into like, we did launch the team YouTube channel and we did our team intro, which I'm sure some people have seen. And so, yeah, this is going to, all of these video versions of the podcast aren't going to go up onto the like current Illuminator's Quest YouTube channel. They're all going to go onto the team YouTube channel. All of the audio versions or video podcasting versions on all the podcasting networks will say the same with the Illuminator's Quest podcast. Like I said, it might just, the name is probably going to change to Team Inkfinity Podcast for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that's a perfect little segue, Daniel. Thank you.
No problem. Here to help.
Mo. Yeah, Mo. I think few people might know Mo.
Couple. Just a couple.
Okay, real question. Do you think more people in Lorcana know you or know Daniel?
Daniel for sure. Like, I don't even know how.
It's this like running joke now, and I feel like I know quite literally like the smallest like circle of people that just happens to be like the largest Venn diagram overlap with everybody on the team.
Have y'all ever heard of the Kevin Bacon game? Like, there's a game you play with movies that Kevin Bacon can be connected to every actor ever within like 9 steps or something. And I think you could do that with Daniel and the Lorcana
for sure.
community. We'll have to break that out one day.
He's got it. Well, see, he's got a very few key relationships that basically spread to everybody else. And so I think that's like where the vast majority of that kind of conversation comes from. But yeah, Daniel is incredibly well connected. If you don't know Daniel, you will know him from this from now on too, but he's a massive behind the scenes guy for sure.
It's fun with the talking heads aspect of this.
I know we've talked about doing video versions for a really long time. And again, there's a lot of transitioning happening, like on all of our competitive stuff, on all of the social stuff. We have a lot of stuff coming up too. And so it just seemed like the perfect time to try to figure it out. So, I mean, you can see the little restream tag up there. We're trying to figure out the best way to do it. So this will probably change, 1 or 2 times the way the setup looks and feels over the next month or so as we work all the kinks out and figure out the best way to handle the video version. But yeah, for now, we're making it work and figuring it out.
Real excited to be jumping on this. It's going to be a blast.
I think so too. So with all that said, I mean, the first topic of today is kind of just, going back to some of the team stuff. So everybody, might not have heard or might not have seen that, I mean, today is Wednesday, so we're recording this episode relatively early, but on Monday, 2 days ago, we launched the official team, Team Inkfinity on the Illuminator's Quest podcast / show. And yeah, so we're all here to be a competitive team and, kind of try to change the Lorcana game as from a content and, fun, content standpoint as well. So we're here to take over.
Yeah. Watch out.
I feel like Mo teased that like 2 or 3 months ago, and like whenever that was teased, like feels like it was an eternity ago. But then like all of the planning behind the scenes to get to today has been kind of a whirlwind, and I'm pumped, very excited. We've got a
Yes.
bunch of fun ideas behind the scenes because I think the Lord Connor community is starved for content.
Yeah, I would say I think we all agree, and and again, and maybe even the broader community we hope agrees is that the vast majority of the content that is out there and that is consumed is very much in the competitive standpoint, right? Like it's competitive, overviews, it's deck guides, it's metafy profiles on how to play decks, on matchups. It's a lot of YouTube video. I mean, the vast majority of the YouTube content I watch is like just old streams of like DLCs, like going back and like watching old competitive games or like rewatching matchups or like watching the VODs on tournaments. And so like last weekend was the first big kickoff tournament, the 10 case in South Florida, and like rewatching all of those matchups to just make sure you don't miss anything to try to stay up to date. And so yeah, from a like creative, fun, kind of wacky, skit type stuff, we don't feel like much of that's out there. And so we just had a first like social committee team meeting call, and I think it went really well. And there's a few things, as Daniel said, that's coming out there. And I say that because it was his idea that was just incredible. And so keep on the watch out for some of the fun content that we're going to be putting out.
We will also have competitive stuff too.
For sure.
A nice little blend of everything. Well balanced.
None of us are involved in any competitive tournaments yet in 2020. So.
No, I mean, obviously at first we're a competitive team. Mo's obviously qualified for Worlds, and at some point in 2025 we'll be competing in Worlds, and we want to get him ready for that. And we want Team Inkfinity to like, stamp their our seal on that World Championship. And so we're going to be doing everything we can to get him ready, and all of the other DLCs that eventually will come up for this year. But at the same time, Lorcana is a massively fun game. We're all Disney fans at heart as well, and so being able to do fun Disney content is going to be paramount to a lot of the stuff we do to engage the broader community.
I personally am just so excited for just some less than meta matchups. I'm really excited to break out some casual decks, some theme decks, some really just fun stuff coming out.
Yep.
I think I'm up to 30 foil Dalmatian puppies, so I'm 30? I'm ready to rock. They're like my add-on for every TCG player order. So like whenever I need to like get free shipping, I just see if the person has a foil puppy.
Smart. That's smart. Well, you're offloading your foils, right? So I'll take those off your hand.
Maybe. Deck. See if you draw any of the other cards.
Okay, well, that's kind of the first topic that we discussed, and we're kind of already in it. So, does anybody else have any like fun tidbits or kind of cliffhangers that they want to throw out there for some of the team stuff that's coming up, or we good to move on to the next?
I mean,
topic?
as always, like
Go ahead, Mo.
Hold on.
Just, I mean, you
are you going through your wallet?
You have my
no.
chair here.
Yeah. The best movie deck.
The theme deck stuff. Yeah, Daniel just said the theme deck, and so I guess again for anybody that missed the Lumineers Quest. Lumineers Quest. God, it's gonna take me a minute for that one. The Lumineers show on Monday. I definitely called out Mo in a theme deck match, and that's like I can do that because that's the only chance I have to beat him is if it's in a theme deck and in very other circumstances. And so yeah, that's a good one we can actually tease that one for sure, is to be on the lookout for a theme deck match between me and Mo.
Yeah.
Daniel, you were gonna say something too.
That was a good tease. No, I was just saying, as always, like we have a bunch of ideas, but if anybody has anything specifically, like feel free to drop a comment on any of the socials, because we are open to doing quite literally anything, and we don't mind having fun. So if you want something specific, send it our way.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect kind of plug, because again, if there's something out there that people want to see that isn't currently available in the Lorcana community, that's kind of what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to make sure that we're providing the content that everybody wants to see. And if there's something out there that's not currently available, then let us know, and we'll try to come up with something creative to fill that gap. But okay, so yeah, that's kind of the team background. If you haven't heard before, go check out last episode of the podcast. We introduced a few other team members, so you can get to know the team a little bit better. On the YouTube channel, we have a team trailer that was put together by our team manager and did a fantastic job, Mandy. If you're not familiar with Mandy, then you must not be very into the Lorcana community too, because she's behind the scenes doing everything. But yeah, it's a fantastic trailer and it's super, super funny. So you got to go check that out too. But yeah, so moving on to set 7, we finally had a big first tournament. We have some, little bit of reviewing we can do of that and, talk about some of our thoughts on the overall shaping up, I guess, of the meta as it were. So yeah, let's just go through the ropes here, or go through the ringer here. So Mo, we'll start with you because I know you've got quite a few thoughts on the new set. So yeah, let's just give it to us straight. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? How are you feeling about everything?
It's over for us non-Sapphire players.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
No, honestly, this set has been really interesting. It's been really fun. There is some new concepts added to Lorcana. In this set, we have a lot of free play characters. In the past, a free play has required a lot of setup behind it. Look at a card like Chernabog, for example, or just anything of the sort like that. I'm sure there's another one that I'm not thinking of.
There's all those ones that are, like Sheriff of Nottingham, which is like pay 1 less for each item you have on there, just like Chernabog or Kristoff, which is, pay 1 less for each song you have in your discard. And so there have been those. So there have been ways to cheat out more expensive, more powerful characters. But there definitely hasn't been anything as impactful as we've seen this set, which is ultimately what you're getting at.
Yeah. Scrooge and more specifically Belle just give Sapphire decks some really powerful tools to work with that we haven't quite seen yet. Just cheating ink to develop characters. We've had ink cheats, which to cheat ink is to play something for more ink than what you have. Popular way to say this is like a Steel Song singing A Whole New World with a 3-cost aerial. But when we look at it and how this meta is developing, it feels really different. The games are very skillful and it's very interactive. There's a lot of bright points, and it's very fast and just different. And there's a lot of a learning curve that we're going to have to get accustomed to post set 7, I think.
Right. Daniel, how do you? Oh,
great. No, you're always very artistic, and I feel like I have to work on that. But so for what I see, and I think Zan mentioned it the other day, you just alluded to it, there's a skill element that's you can't just play your cards and get rewarded for playing the powerful cards. It's the sequencing of the cards, it's the turn you play it in, it's understanding the implication of banishing your own item to play a Bell on turn 1 and maybe not having that item to play Hiram on turn 3 or 4, depending on when you're ramping. And so I'm excited. I think everybody in the community was pretty the consensus was that Sapphire received a ton of support in set 7, and it was going to be extremely powerful. Most of their good cards are inkable. I think they just forgot to remove the inkable symbol on some of those. But and so the first big tournament came and went, and we saw Sapphire. I think it was not only the most represented color, but also ended up winning. And so I'm excited because I think I mentioned it in my intro on last week's pod, but I like to angle into the meta and beat the tier 1 deck because I don't want people to know what I'm playing. I don't want them to be able to predict what I'm playing. And having cards that people are unfamiliar with is an advantage in the game. It is very tough though on turn 1 to deal with the 3/3. So how do we deal with that? A 3/3 that can sing let the storm rage on and deal with your 1-drop. Or your 2-drop. And so it will probably take time. One tournament is not defining the whole meta for the entire set. And so I'm optimistic that there will be a flux of different color to angle into Sapphire Steel and Sapphire Ruby. I don't know what those will be. I'm hoping that they're green and yellow, but we will see what those colors end up being.
Yeah, I mean, and Mo, I think you put it best. Previously, I think just between the team members talking is that just the way that you play the game has changed. Like you definitely said that in your remarks too, but from my perspective, the game definitely slowed down. Bell very much puts a stranglehold on like early game chip lore from, your Ruby Sapphire or sorry, your Ruby Amethyst that would, normally, quest with a few of those cheap cards and then go bounce its way to, to victory. And, the Bell definitely stifles that a little bit. And so in my eyes, like it slows the game down a lot, which theoretically should open more like lines or more decks or more possibilities, because the longer the game goes, then the more, options that you have to play and the more things that you can kind of come away with from a strategy perspective. And so from that regard, like it does lead me to believe that there is a strategy out there that can, fight with it. Obviously the resource advantage from a card and ink perspective that you get from Sapphire is really hard to deal with. But that being said, I think there are strategies out there that can win. So does it seem doom and gloom right now? I know a lot of people are screaming that. Sure. I mean, it's been one tournament and, the top 4 all had Sapphire in it. But at the same time, I don't think that that's the end all be all. I mean, we thought at the beginning of set 4 that, I mean, Sisu on Ice, when, Sailor, pioneered that deck to begin with, everybody's like, the sky's falling. And then 3 weeks later, people are on Bucky and they're saying the sky's falling because of that. And so, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think our message is like, yeah, it's a little, it might be a little frustrating. And if you're not a Sapphire fan at all, then you might, be have an uphill battle, I guess, this set, but it's by no means like over. I don't think that the meta's defined, and I don't think there's a tier 0 deck, completely established yet. And so there should be more than enough options to try to fight it.
I think steel particularly looks very strong as a flexible color moving forward. Just the amount of different removal or different almost floodgate-esque cards. Pete notably is really strong, but that Gantu, the uninkable one that came out of this set, is a very powerful card that I didn't see reach any of the top cut deck lists from this. I may have missed him, but
I don't think so. Well, there was one Amethyst steel. Here, you keep talking, and we're going to use our fancy tools over here, and we're going to go to Inkdex and log.
Yeah. I just think there's definitely some options there right now. If they're looking to develop strategies with Oswald, there's nothing better at killing a 2-cost uninkable than steel cards, realistically.
No, we have the giant Cobra, but we don't have the new Gantu.
I remember looking at this list. I was very surprised that Cobra was the only new addition. I thought Purple got some pretty cool toys in this set, but the Cobra is certainly a good card. It might be all they need.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're dealing, if you're going back to dealing with steel, and you're, running Genie, I mean, that, it historically is not great at dealing with Genie. I mean, I think a lot more people are on Zeus's than they were at the beginning of last set when Genie was just, like running rampant throughout the meta. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is just a really solid Amethyst steel list that we saw last set with, the Cobra in there to get a little bit more reach.
Yeah. Definitely adds up. And your notes on the Genie target, it's just like, I don't mind if you Zeus my Genie. Sure. I already drew a card. That's a impactful card you gave for my Genie. So
well,
yeah, I mean, like,
go ahead. No,
sorry,
go ahead.
Notably,
I'm
like,
talking too much.
Well, notably, and Mo and I, we chatted about this yesterday. Like, Amethyst is a strong individual like color, as Mo proved last set champs. And I think like the ability to draw cards is always going to be powerful in every card game because card economy is usually what will win you games. But like pairing it with the right color combination usually requires like understanding what the meta is and what like the turn plays are. And so as with almost every set we've seen, like usually like the Ruby Amethyst decks like kind of slowly figure out how to build their decks in order to play into the meta. Well, like turn 1 Bell turns off like Flynn Rider Frenemy, right? So like Ruby Amethyst needs to kind of reshape its identity and not go for this like Flynn, Sisu, Queen's Castle like play. And they've kind of done that over the last couple of sets, but it takes a while for all of the meta kind of to be defined so that purple decks can shape into it. And so Purple Steel is great. Like I think it does a really good job of essentially like burning cards, like or burning lore rather, from its opponents with both the Goat and the White Rose. And so I feel like that's a really strong matchup into Blue Steel, but I might be wrong. It just feels like blue steel can't really combat with that because you're putting pressure on the board and then you're also bursting, and blue steel is trying to basically just like develop their items so they can kind of 2-turn or 1-turn punch you with a dime.
Yeah.
And so you're putting pressure on them to where they have to deal with your stuff, and they can't really develop their own plan. And then you always have access to Pete, which is just a really nice card to kind of turn off a good portion of what a lot of decks use. So I think that color combination is certainly one that will be powerful in the short term, but I'm super excited to see what happens with the other Amethyst combinations moving forward. Blurple has, I think, good runway as well. It can get, obviously a lot of ink with the ramp, and you have access to all these awesome Sapphire cards.
My favorite thing about Blurple this set is it didn't really gain a lot, if anything, but it didn't get worse. And Emerald Amethyst, which you may know is my personal favorite, got considerably worse with the shifting of the meta. So I would like to see what Blurple can accomplish with it doesn't do bad into anything here, and it draws a bunch of cards. It's got a lot of reach with the high end. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, Blurple took everybody by storm last time, and I feel like it has the same potential to just, put a turn 3 Genie, which is still incredibly strong, especially if your answer is Zeus and you're on the draw. Then even if your plan is Scrooge, you're probably not getting him out on turn 3. I mean, I know that's like theoretically possible, but it's probably extremely unlikely. And so then you're waiting a turn, and then you're taking all your resources to then do that, and you're having to set up other things while Blurple's still just going. And then obviously the Elsa, the Spirit of Winter from set 1 is just, the little bit of like slowdown that you need, from a tapping a either one of the Tamatoas to keep them from going. And so, yeah, I think there's still some, potential like catching people off guard with that, and, giving yourself like another turn to finish off the game, which usually is all it takes. But yeah.
For sure. Definitely excited to see where Purple goes forward. Ruby Amethyst was, I think, the 4th most represented deck at this tournament, the 10 case that happened, and I don't think a single one from what we just saw got in top 8 or 16 even. And a little surprising. I definitely was a little higher on the deck. Didn't think it was going to be a huge contender, but I thought it might be a little sleeper, and it's looking like they're in the worst place they've been in for a little bit.
Yeah, the best Ruby Amethyst looked like it came in like 30. What is that? 4, 6, 8, like 39th, 40th, in the tournament.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen this list either. I ran across this one on social, and I pulled it up for a second. But this is kind of like your Amethyst Steel, just like kind of location spam. But yeah, so I don't know what you guys think about this, if this has any like actual legs or not, with a little bit of tweaking.
This reminds me of a Blurple deck. Like three non-purple cards in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess you're honestly, that didn't even really cross my mind. I was more not concerned, I guess, but more just like, oh, we got Cusco back in here. Haven't seen Cusco for a while.
Is that 2-cost location just flavor text?
Yeah, this is basically the Neverland that I was playing in. Can we zoom in here? Yeah, we can. Basically it's just a 1/4, and you can't see it, but it's got 1 lore pip. I was playing Neverland and Steel Song, which was basically just a 1/4 location with 1 lore, just to diversify your threats. And so that's ultimately what all of these are, except for the library. Just a 2/6 and a 1/4, just to give yourself some diversified threats. Right before or after your preps.
Shout out to our audio only podcasters. We're talking about ferry ship location.
Oh God,
right
yeah.
now.
I'm gonna have to get better about that, man. I'm usually like really good about that, but yeah, man, thank you for keeping me honest there, because we're
whose deck is this? Or maybe we'll just put it in like the show notes for the podcast if people want to look at it.
LSP Taurus, shout out LSP Taurus, who was the highest Ruby Amethyst finisher at the 10 case in Florida. But yeah, again, like also, I guess the last one on the meta that I want to get your guys' thoughts on is because we have Cody on our team that is kind of high on this one is, Mo or Daniel, either one of you have more TCG experience than I do, so you can probably explain it a little bit better. But the the lemon lime dredge deck, as Cody's calling it. That one seems, I think, like it has a little bit of legs to it as well, because it's just like a completely new type of deck. So
Bog Tramp.
I am so excited for Tramp.
I was gonna say, I think we had one in the top 8 too, so we can even show that one from the event. So yeah, here we go. This is Daniel's a historical lemon lime player that makes his opponents hate him, but this is a very, very, very different lemon lime deck.
So when I first saw this, a very similar list recommended by Cody, I thought this looks fantastic. It looks like so much fun. I think this is kind of the direction aggro needs to move in this set. One of the first things that caught my eye is the 12 one cost 4 health characters. That's insane to me. But it really just kind of like pushes forward the idea that you want to try to establish a turn 4 tramp, I think, nearly every game. I really like the list. If there's a stream game of this, I really would love to watch it in action, especially if it wins.
We lost Daniel, I guess.
I don't know.
Is he coming back? Wait, I think I can throw him back in here. While we figured out with Daniel, talk us through the turn 4 tramp, because it's not necessarily a direct, obvious like line here, but you're talking about the tramp street smart dog, the new 7 cost rare, 2/6 stat line, quest for 2, and has the ability that says, when you play this character, you may draw a card for each of the other characters you have in play, then choose and discard that many cards. And so you're, getting to shuffle through a lot of the cards in your deck to find what you want. But then he also has the ability that says, for each character you have in play, pay 1 less ink to pay this character. So that kind of gives you an idea of how to get him out early. But Mo, if you just want to run through that and kind of talk through, some of the thoughts on that one.
How many 1-drops we have here? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 1. There are 19 1-drops in this deck.
So, right up your alley.
I feel very well approached to talk about this. So what you really want to do is establish your 1-drops. You want to try to push wide because you really want to take advantage of that tramp effect. So even if you go 1-drop on 1, 2 on 2, that's still not enough to play the tramp until turn 4 anyways. But you play enough characters to reduce his cost by 3. So you can play him on 4 and do a draw 3, mill 3. And since you have so many 1 costs, consider the 1 cost characters as just a way to widen your board while also playing the tramp for cheaper, which is really cool because if you have enough 1 cost characters, you can just swarm the board by turn 4, play him, draw a mill, and then play a free Chernabog to just really put the game out of your opponent's hands. The way this takes aggro up to an 11 is a really interesting approach, I think, for the upcoming format.
Yep.
I think I got so excited I jumped over to TCG Player and hopped off real quick so I could go buy some enchanted Chernobyls. Is it Chip or Dale? I forget which one the 4-drop is in this deck. But
Dale.
So yeah, Dale is the second that card got leaked for I believe it was set 6. I immediately went and bought foils of it because for those that are familiar with other TCGs, there was a archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, and it might still exist, but zombie, which basically the entire premise of the deck was to use your graveyard or your discard pile equivalent for Lorcana to cycle things and almost revive things back for free and cheat them out. And so Dale just kind of triggered that thought in my head that I feel like that card's going to be good one day. Combine it with the tramp effect, and essentially, you're just building your discard pile to drop these giant Chernobobs, or maybe you don't draw it and you can play Lady and keep cycling your aggro. So I think aggro historically always kind of runs out of steam, and these cards all give you that next level that once you run out of that initial push, maybe your opponent has dealt with your initial surge, you can kind of refill without taking a turn off. Usually when you're refilling, you're oftentimes not putting more pressure on the board, And in all of these scenarios, like you're continuing to put pressure on the board, which is really, really exciting. So this deck like has my attention because it does exactly what I want to do. You're still playing a couple of like really weak characters though, is like the one call out here. Individually, like some of these cards are not very good. Some of them I'm pretty sure are vanilla. And so like you are making a few sacrifices by playing this, but this, I mean, honestly, this is probably like the most budget friendly, like competitive deck that we've had in a while. I running quick math here, outside of the enchanted Rapunzel that's on the screen, like that's probably like less than a I'd say probably $50 deck if you exclude Rapunzels, which I think you could probably replace them a little bit if you couldn't afford them. So really cool deck.
If it says, it says $250 for the price of the deck, and
Rapunzels.
yeah, and that's basically all the Rapunzel price, because the Rapunzels are it's $250, and it's basically saying that 200 of that 250 is Rapunzels. So yeah, I mean it's I agree with you guys. I think there's definitely something here, because if you go turn 4 Tramp, turn 5 Turnabog, into Sapphire Steel specifically, like, you know, if they're trying to do manner stuff, which Sapphire Steel isn't usually trying to do that. I mean, you have your Harlan Sweet Kiwi decks that definitely have the manners in there as part of the strategy. Like Turnabog one-shots manners. I don't know how many other cards that you can say actually do that, but Turnabog can. On top of that, Turnabog can live through any challenge imaginable. And guess what Rapunzel likes to do? Go heal a Turnabog, because it'll just keep hitting everything. Cogsworth's on board, Turnabog doesn't care. So I definitely think there's something here as well. To Daniel's point, I think there is something to be said about a few of the weak cards. Maybe it needs a little bit of refining, but I think Daisy got stronger, with the amount of items / actions that people are playing in their DKP Maui Shark lists, to the amount of items in the Zan Oswald lists. Like, your Daisy's just going to feast. And, if you're putting all those important cards that they need to finish out their strategies to the bottom of the deck, then that makes it a lot harder for them to find the stuff that they need to, to turn the corner. And so there's definitely something here. So again, we're talking about the meta, on top of, some of these results. I think there's definitely other things to be excited about.
Sure.
Okay. With that, I think we move on to the next topic, which is, Mo, I think you have a little bit of a famous match, if you will, coming in. If people aren't aware of the Lorcana Cross Continental Challenge, put on by Pavel and Pixelborn Connect. Mo was very kindly invited to come on, and so he's got his first match in basically 2 days as of now. And so, I want to just get your thoughts on that one and kind of talk through how that's shaping up.
Yeah, so I'm very thrilled to be involved in this. I'm playing against people that I'm going to meet at Worlds whenever that is, and my round 1 opponent is a DLC winner. And how often do you get to say you get to play against a DLC winner? It's going to be such a blast. But just the quality of like players and seeing the decks that they release, like they're not holding anything back this time. Like last time, if you tuned in to the first LCCC, some of the deck lists were a little restrained, a little very similar to the set before deck lists. And there's definitely some really hype stuff happening, especially on my end, you could say.
I mean, have you posted your list? I mean, I know that they all kind of were made public. I mean, most of the people that are competing have posted them. And I know that it's an open deck list format, meaning you know what your opponent's playing and your opponent knows what you're playing. But have you actually shared it publicly yet?
So I haven't tossed it out there just yet. I put it on our team's Discord as just a little, preview treat. And then I believe some YouTubers have talked about it so far, and I haven't publicly talked about it yet. It's interesting because if it performs decently, it's obviously a little bit under the radar. And if it doesn't, I'm going to look like a silly, silly man. So, I would love to take the time and talk about it, though, in theory, and at least post it to socials, but I haven't done it just yet.
Well, I was just about to say too, I guess technically as of recording this, I mean, the next topic we're going to talk about to close out this episode is your plans for this weekend. You're going to a relatively big tournament in Dallas too, but this is going live after all that. So theoretically, I think we can be a little bit more open, because by the time this goes live, you will have played your first match and the deck list will be pretty public by that point, and you definitely will have already played that tournament, and then it'll be live from that. So I think you can be a little bit more open and honest with you, because I had the same thought. I was like, I don't want to really talk about anything and spoil it any, but by this point, I think it's spoiled. So if you want to be a little bit more open, I think it's probably okay.
People are. You don't know what's coming. This is one of Ink Geyser, so if you are audio only, is one of the most ridiculous cards I think that's been released into Lorcana so far. I think its power is only gated because it's locked into green-blue. I think if this was any particular color, it would be 100% staple in that color, and you'd find a way to work around it. It lets you do things that we've never seen in the game before. It steals tempo in such a way that if you play an Ink Geyser against a red-purple, if you're playing an Ink Geyser deck against a red-purple deck, they're never playing Be Prepared unless you just like miss on a lot of your like triggers to find it. It's just constantly just resets their power scaling back. And if you are your opponent and you're inking and you're playing and you're going about the game, there's going to be a good chance that you just end up with awkward hands, and that's something else it throws at you, even though it gives you a considerable amount of cards back. But I think looking into the Sapphire meta, having a tool like Ink Geyser at your side is definitely feels pretty good. But beyond just the Geyser, I think green is one of the best colors to really abuse Sapphire Coil. Sapphire Coil, everyone's been talking about it, but in case you don't know, during your turn, whenever a card is put into your Inkwell, you may give chosen character -2 strength that turn. This for green allows cards like the Muses and Cloud Kicker to become very effective removal threats at very cheap cost, if any. And then one of the biggest edges, and I think into the item mirror matches, is the new Pete, Pirate Scoundrel. It's a 1-cost card, and it's a fantastically overpowered 1-cost card. Just trust me on this. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may banish chosen item. This card kind of got slept on a little bit because, let's be real, there's not that many valuable green actions that see competitive play that aren't a song. You have like Hypnotize, and then outside of that, there's not a whole lot of great options. But the thing about green-blue is you have a lot of powerful actions that you're going to be playing anyways. Yeah. And so if you're in these item mirror matches, you can just play a Pete out. You don't even have to put it at risk of losing it to a song. You can just play it during your turn because it only costs 1, and start blowing up some of their items and setting their game plan back. Yes, they can add it back with Tamatoa, and that's just something we're all going to have to run into, but they can't always add it back with Tamatoa, the new 6-cost, or either, actually.
Well, yeah, you can add it back, but is your Tamatoa going to stay on the board? I mean, I guess all three of us have put in quite a few reps into this to help you out. And I wish we had a count of how many Maui Sharks were bounced, because you think 7 health and it's like, that's safe. That is so safe. But let me tell you how easy it is to either put 2 coils out there and ink twice, or, ink a couple times with all of the how far all goes, the sails, the other just ramp options that you have, and between like T-pose and things that you have. I mean, yeah, it's a deck to play if you like, if you're going into a matchup with somebody that you just despise, play Mo's deck and you'll piss them off and you'll probably win too. So
you have T-pose, sail, how far I'll go, 1 jump ahead, and on top of those, to get stuff into your ink to trigger your Sapphire Coil, you also have Mother Knows Best, and you're welcome to just hard bounce it off the board.
To bounce something and then trigger Muses to bounce something else. So, yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've played Mo on this deck and gotten to 18 plus, 18, 19, somewhere in that range, and then just literally have 14 cards in my hand and just be like, I can do whatever I want, but it's not going to matter because you're just going to bounce it all back. And that's exactly what happens. And then he finally closes out the game. So, yeah,
Mo's too nice to play discard, but like he likes you to have all your cards in your hand. He just doesn't want you to be able to play them. So
you can look at them.
Yeah, you can look at them. You can keep them in your hand. You'll just be on 3 ink.
Yeah, he's like the new generation jerk. You know, discard and green steel is like the old grumpy generation of jerks, and Mo's blue green is like the new generation of like, I don't like you, and so I'm just gonna bounce everything back to your hand. You have options, you just can't keep it on the board to actually do anything with it. So like I've seen Mo bounce little Sisus back tons of times. Like little Sisu that removes something, don't care. Bounce it back.
Get it out of here. I don't want that ship. That ship's the only thing I care about.
Maui Shark.
Mo, you were mentioning.
See you later. Go ahead.
You mentioned the other day on just how complex some of the lines are with the deck, though. So, like Zach said, if you want to make your friends like mad, you can pick it up. But it's certainly that has a lot of different like lines, even like quite literally from turn one.
True.
And so I don't know if you wanted to like share on any of that. Broadly, or I mean, obviously, as much as you want to give away.
Yeah,
but,
just at a high level, just that understanding of like why it can be so complex.
So what Daniel's saying is like your thoughts from turn one, even though you have very few things you can play on turn one, it's like a Clarabelle or a Develop Your Brain or a Pete in my current build. You have so many options when it comes to what you ink because your inks are valuable now. Like you have to think about what you're putting in your inkwell because you're playing Geyser, and as you're playing the Geyser, you're essentially stacking your inkwell from turn one with cards you want post Geyser, and it just adds like a certain layer of complexity to the deck that I find fantastic because you're setting the odds to be good for you. Your opponents like don't know this just yet, but like you really, whenever you're playing into this matchup, you really just have to focus on that. But then when you get to those like pre and post Geyser turns, like you have so many cards in your hand. You have legit hundreds of ways you can take this game in the next 2 or 3 decisions, and just determining the best one of those is what's going to make, and you determining them quickly at that. Like you got to play this deck fast or else you're going to like just run into a bunch of draws, because it does not end the game super quickly, just depending. Like a lot of times your opponent will want to forfeit fast, and that's good.
What is the average number of cards you have left in your deck at the end of a game?
Pass. Under 10 for sure. Like it gets ridiculous. But the thing you consider is like you're using Clarabelle to draw. So in a lot of situations, like your opponent's also getting low at those points. So like you're playing an interesting game here, but you do have the balance to give you a little bit more. But
well, the thing that like strikes me the most about that one specifically is just the Geyser, and obviously that's a really powerful card. But as you said earlier, and as we just kind of talked about in the meta, is like that completely changes the way you play the game. To your points you just made, it's like I'm going to put something in Inkwell because I don't need it now, but I might want it later. And like, you've never had that concept before. I mean, people like sort of talked about that with Mufasa when that one came out, you know, because you can, you play it and you pick 2 things up from your Inkwell, but that never really amounted to anything. And obviously if you're at 8 ink and you're only picking up 2 things, you have at best a 25% chance of getting what you want. Well, if you're at 10 ink and you pick up everything but 3, then you have a really, really high 70% chance of getting back what you want. And so it just lets you keep cycling the resources that you might want later. Whereas to your point, your opponent might not be like having that same thought process. And so they might just be putting a bunch of uninkables in their inkwell, or just, trying to get rid of stuff that isn't relevant to the matchup. And then they're getting things back that aren't relevant to the matchup while you're getting things back that you want to be playing at a later turn when your resources are low again. So it's just a really fascinating way to change the thought process throughout the way that you play the game. That's never been had before.
It definitely is going to change a lot of people's perception of the game. Hopefully, mostly positively. It's not my fault. They took green purple away.
If this gets widespread, it's going to be a ban wave faster than Bucky, because nobody's going to want to play the game anymore, just like nobody wanted to play against Bucky. So
at least in the Bucky games, they were kind of fast because you just didn't have any cards. In this situation, your opponent just isn't gaining lore very quickly, and you're just trying to get, it's like you're almost there, and like Mo just kind of pulls the like fishing line away and just takes your ink all back down to 3. So
that's a really good analogy, actually, because normally it's like I have no cards, I can't do anything, like you said. But in this instance, it's like I have a Maui Shark and a Be Prepared and 3 big Sisus. And so like I can turn the game around, but then you just never can because he just bounces everything you're doing back to your hand.
Yeah, we were in like when we were playing the other day, Zach, we were trying to decide like, do I play the shark or do I just play like a bunch of little weenies on the board and hope that he doesn't bounce them all so I can just keep something on the board? And it didn't matter.
No, sure didn't.
Doesn't never matters.
It never matters. Okay. Kind of in the same vein, but moving on to just a little bit of a different topic. So again, you're going to the Hunter Burton Memorial Foundation. Is it the foundation tournament this weekend in Dallas? I mean, it's not actually in Dallas, but it's in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And so this should be a pretty big tournament. I know that there's a lot of people in Texas that are pretty competitive. We also got on the Illuminateers Quest show on Monday. Zan was very open about him going, and so Mo's face, I just saw like light. I couldn't see him at the time, but he was like, all right, game on. So yeah, you want to talk about your kind of your prep and your thoughts going into your first big tournament for Set 7?
So I'm thrilled that it's so close to us. We don't have a lot of those that happen near where we're at, but it's just a decent like day drive trip. But yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to like have people ask me to be a part of it too. My prep going into it kind of coincided with a lot of my LCCC prep. Obviously, the deck list will be a little bit more primed to what like multiple things I can run in. Probably a little bit more primed into some Oswald Blue Steel.
Yeah,
But
I think that's a safe bet.
yeah, I super excited to be playing some competitive Lorcana again. We haven't had a lot since the last Set Champs, and I played what was it like a month's worth of straight Set Champs to
Wait,
complete my challenge.
did you release that video?
Not yet.
Dude, oh my God. I was about to say, now that I knew that you did that. So this is a perfect time to, I guess, at least plug it a little bit. Is Mo and Set Champs did the purple gauntlet, whatever you want to call it. He tried to get a scar with every permutation of purple. And so I guess you can plug your video here a little bit, but
Did I succeed? We'll have to find out. Actually, you probably already found out. But I'm just going to talk a little bit more in depth of why it was a successful challenge and like what was the hardest runs with the deck, like which decks gave me the most trouble and which ones where I like surprisingly, wow, this is great. But just really giving purple one last hoorah before we enter the sapphire phase here.
before you knew what was coming, before you knew what was coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun season. But yeah, I mean, and I've definitely talked about this on the podcast before, but we're hopefully expanding our audience a little bit with the new show and the new format and everything. So, for those of you who don't know or haven't been like super involved in like the team announcement stuff, we have myself, Devin, Mo, Matthew, James. So that's 5 team members that have day 2 of a DLC, and they all live local. So again, local Set Champs, 5 people. We have Cody, who did not day 2 at a DLC somehow, but guess what? He just won his LCQ pod and made Continental. So you can basically up that to 6. And then we have Zane, the 14-year-old wonderkin, who I think you're going to meet in the next episode, who we always joke is the best out of all of us because he has the most Set Champs mats out of anybody and just wins every one. Yeah, and then you have Daniel, the Set Champs wonder, who comes around every 3 months and competes in a couple Set Champs and gets a couple mats too. So all of that to be said to hype up Mo's video on, yeah, like it's a Set Champs run, but it's a Set Champs run at the same time.
Set Champs run.
My a quick story sidebar. So like first Set Champs, Set 3. I think the very first Set Champs that we had locally was like an hour and a half drive north on like a Friday at 6 p.m. So I was like bracing myself for like, okay, it might be like 4 rounds or whatever. We had 40 people. It was a 6-round tournament, and 5 of those 6 rounds I played against people who have all day 2 DLCs.
Holy! So you play who you play? You played me, Cody, James, Homero.
So it was Homero, you, Devin, I played Nick, who lives about an hour south of here.
Yeah.
And I played James. And so yeah, that was, and I started off 3-0, and I was like feeling it. And nobody knew who I was because I hadn't played at all locally. So everybody was like, "Who is this person?" And so I started off 3-0, and then I dropped a match. Devin and I went to time. We have never finished a game in any set championships that we've played in. We went to time, so that was a draw. And then I lost to Nick on the bubble. And so I was like, a nice hour and a half long drive back home after like losing, and I had a migraine because I hadn't played in a long time, and I was like, am I built for this? Like, am I too old to play this? And so I was intending to go to 3 that weekend, and I skipped Saturday because I was like, I need a day off. And so then I fully pivoted into a different color combination. So I was on Ruby Amethyst with 3 rabbits because I had given one away thinking I had 5. And so I still didn't get it in the mail in time. So I was like, okay, can't play Amethyst. I'll switch over to somebody had like posted a Ruby Sapphire like locations build with like RLS Legacy, Macduff Manor. And so it was just kind of like guard the castle with Be Prepared and just throw your locations down. And so I played that smaller tournament on Sunday and ended up, I think I went 3-1-1, ended up 8th, and got knocked out of top 8 by Matthew. So it was just,
who also on our team, also day 2. So
yes, so it was just one of those situations where that's the only set champs card I don't have is Stitch, which unfortunately is like 3 times more like than any of the other cards. But not that I'm bitter on it, but I was like, man, this is a brutal gauntlet. I sent a message to my buddies who used to play Yu-Gi-Oh with me, and I was like, I feel like I just went to a Yu-Gi-Oh regional. There was only 40 people there, but it felt like the same like level of competition as like 120, and so it was just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, I've said this probably genuinely 50 times on different episodes and stuff. The first set, like first couple tournaments before we ever had a DLC, I was like, man, like, I feel like I'm decent. I practice all the time. I put in the effort. I go to league. I play outside of league to practice. And then you go to league, and then you go to these tournaments, and it's like, man, I can't even top 8. I can't, make the cut. And then we go to the DLCs, and it's like, oh, it's not that I'm just not very good. It's just that everybody else around me is insane. And it's crazy because that's, one of the reasons we kind of started this tournament is because, the team has 11 like playing members of the team, and 5 of us have day 2'd, and 1 of us has, qualified for continentals through the pods. And so 6 of the 11 have, made it that far, and which is just again, a testament to how, lucky we are to play against such good players and have such good teammates to practice with. And so, yeah, from that, very fortunate and very unfortunate at the same time, especially going into set 7 set champs when you have to win to get the mat. And we have the little mat demon Zane who wins every damn time and is going to make it impossible for any of us others to get one. So
I think we just need to send him the wrong dates for set champs so that we can all like make sure he misses it.
Collaborate with our local stores to give them specific dates.
This store is now it's now also serving alcohol, so you're only allowed if you're 20.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Start, because that will help the stores too. That just after you O2 drop, you just go get a drink, and then you can wall your sorrows away, and then the little demons can't make it in. Which I say that Zane's obviously one of them, which again is insane. But there's another kid at our locals that's always comes up with the crazy stuff, and he was playing Kiwi before Kiwi was Kiwi, and it wasn't exactly Kiwi, but he was basically playing Blue Steel aggro before anybody else was, and he always plays something different every tournament at set champs. He stuck with it every time, and I think he had more scars than I do.
He almost topped with Mono Steel.
Yeah.
He did.
And so, and he's, I think 11. And so again, I don't know if his parents are comfortable saying his name, so I don't necessarily want to, but I mean, I know he's younger than Zane. He might be 12 or 13, but still, like, that young of a kid that's literally beating everybody else and just going along and having fun with it. So yeah, anyways, I've talked about that a bunch.
If you think your kid has potential, send them to our area and we will groom them into the perfect Cortana player.
We'll test them out. We'll test them out. Yeah, no, I think that, yeah, it's a lot, but yeah, I mean, I think I don't really have anything else much to talk about, and we're, a good solid, like 50 minutes in at this point. So, any other thing hot on your mind that you guys want to talk about or cover, or what are you guys thinking?
I think we covered quite a bit. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I did leave off one reason I'm particularly excited for this weekend, if you would let me speak.
I can't believe you didn't say it to begin with. All right, well let at it.
So, a little bit of backstory. What was it, DLC Vegas, I was knocked out by the green steel list that Zan Syed was piloting. Not the man himself, but the same list. Continentals, I was knocked out by the man himself. I got to play Zan for the first time. It was an absolute blast. A lovely human, just saying that. He's a wonderful person, a good opponent, fun to play against. I'm excited to potentially have a rematch this weekend. I want it. I've been knocked out by himself for a creation of his out of 2 premier events. So I want a chance at a little bit of a run back.
And he's already said what he's playing too. On the Illumiteer show, he said I'm running it back with Blue Steel. So he said maybe not the same list, and so maybe he makes a change or two. But I would imagine he stays on the Oswald stuff, knowing that a lot of people will go on that, and he just obviously feels really strong in the mirror. But fun times. Yeah. Daniel, gonna sign us off? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not set champ season, so I don't have a tournament to play in just yet. But I am excited, as we kind of talked about in terms of current meta. New meta is always super fun. There's a lot going on. My mindset is always to be a problem solver. So like we currently have a problem right now, and I think there's a way to solve it. So I'm super excited to see what people come to the plate with. I will be doing my own cooking and trying to figure out some different color combinations that tend to solve things, and I'm looking forward to honestly I know there's a lot of competitive events coming up, so watching those. And then from a team standpoint, like we've got a lot of ideas. I am really looking forward to seeing some of those come to life. But if anybody has any wish list items that they would like to get kind of created, we are the team to do it, I think. So just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably should have started with this, but there was just so much news with kind of the new podcast, the new team, some of the the changes that we're making that I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, we started a team Discord. It'll be linked below, in the show notes and the comments, and join the Discord. It's already blown up. I don't think we were fully prepared at how fast this was going to grow. I mean, we've already got, I think, 80 members in the Discord, and 80 community members in the Discord, and so we're going really quick. We're also gonna start running like Discord community events, and I will say there will be some prizes involved as well. And so if you want to be involved in any of the tournaments that are in the Discord, you should definitely join and be ready for that. And I will also just, again, I know this is the end of the episode, but I also plug that it's not going to be your sweaty core constructed every single time, month after month, on what these tournaments are going to be. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to give everybody a chance to win, where you may not have had that same type of format to be able to succeed in. And so there's a lot of fun stuff coming to be involved in the Discord. You can follow our team socials, which are linked below as well, from our YouTube to the X account to the Blue Sky to TikTok. We're getting ready to start jumping on for some of the shorts we're going to be putting out. So yeah, just make sure to be following us around, because we're going to put out a lot of fun stuff, and we'll be involved all over the community, from the competitive to the fun to the wacky, you name it. We're gonna be dipping our toes in it. So
you say it's not going to be sweaty, but there's somebody out there who has been like cooking like a theme deck for the entire existence of Warcana.
You might be right. So a little bit of spoiler, we're probably going to do some theme deck tournaments, probably going to do some like monocolored tournaments. Things just gives you some ideas of like what we're thinking. But will it be sweaty? Sure. I'd also like to do some multiplayer stuff, which would be fun. So will it be sweaty? Sure. It's just not going to be your traditional thought of as sweaty of like, your Ruby Sapphire Steel mirrors for 6 rounds to win the tournament. So that won't be necessarily what you have to look forward to. But with that said, I think we're finishing the first episode here. So we got a good one under our belt, and we'll continue on from here. So thank you guys for being with us, and we'll catch you guys next time. Appreciate it, everyone.
Bye.